Well, we're here. Another day has come and gone. It's 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We are right as rain, Mr. Rayo. Seven,
Yes, sir.
virtually 7 o'clock on the nose, and turned out to be a very nice day behind what actually turned out to be a fairly impressive wet snowstorm for interior upstate New York and New England. Yeah, upstate meaning you had to go probably a fair distance north of Route 84 to find at least an inch, but nonetheless, there was some pretty decent amounts up along I-90 on the New York side, and particularly on the New England side in the Berkshires, the Catskills, all doing pretty well.
It was actually a little bit of a surprise this morning because woke up, looked on the deck, and there indeed was another slight little bit of snow had fallen apparently as we were sleeping in the after midnight hours or around midnight. Didn't expect that. Saw rain for a good part of the afternoon and evening, but then I guess it turned just cold enough for a little bit of that precipitation to change back over to light snow before it finally petered out and ended in the after midnight hours.
Well, you got your .3 or the .2 you needed to
Yeah,
get you into double digits.
absolutely.
Good.
Went,
Uh, uh, you were
went above.
spared. You were spared that humiliation of less than double digit snowfall.
Yeah, I would have liked to have actually seen it stay below 10 inches, but this is going to probably be about as close as you can possibly get in
You
this particular season.
you do get to that point though, and I understand what you're saying. It's like if it hadn't snowed all winter. If it's not going to do it, let it at least set some kind of a record that you get something out of it, uh, rather than being spoiled by you know in its snowstorm. And I got the snowfall map up as of 7 a.m. this morning, and it does show up pretty well in the yellow and that lighter. I don't know what color you would call that. That's not the dark after the dark blue, but before the yellow.
Yeah,
Is that like a beige color or light beige color? That's all
what
six. That's all 6 to 8. So that was pretty widespread.
I don't know what you would call that. What exactly is puce?
Oh God, I don't know.
I don't know.
I always thought that was a bad name for a color. It sounds like something you would throw up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that is fairly impressive, though. And once again, places that were, as you mentioned, north of I-90, inland, where they've gotten a fair amount of snow this particular winter season. I think Caribou has had over 120 inches
hmm
up in North Maine. So
yeah.
it's not like the whole Northeast was under a snow drought this winter. It was just the I-95 corridor that just seemed to avoid any significant snowfall.
In Connecticut, north of Route 84, in Litchfield County, actually did fairly well. 4 to even some pockets of 5 and 6 inches just north of Waterbury. My daughter's up north of Waterbury, so she got about 4 or 5 inches up where she is in Thomaston. And you can see also some snows. Looks like Syracuse picked up of about 4. Utica got well, Syracuse is on that edge there. Utica got 4, but the areas in between got 4 to 8, and also Albany looks like it was just outside the 6+ line, but in Albany itself, it looked like it was about 3 or 4. So still pretty halfway decent snowfall for this time of year. Certainly can't complain too much. And my brother's up in New Hampshire in Lake Winnipesaukee, and they got 6 to 8 there. So
Yeah.
it works.
It works. And now we prepare for another little bit of precipitation, although tomorrow the precip will be a lot lighter, I think. And also, it's likely to be mostly rain, not so much snow. I'm thinking, Joe, tomorrow, precipitation chiefly between about 10 o'clock in the morning to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know what your time frame is for.
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing that bugged me about it was I don't know how far north that rain's going to get.
Yeah.
Hang on one second, Joe. I just, go ahead and opine some more. I just got a message from Tim He can't seem to find the live cast. I got to send him the
We
link.
hear it over and over from investors.
Okay.
Whoops, hang on one
Well,
second. It'll just take me half a second. But
oh,
it's kind of funny. We're going into a blocking pattern, which is which is just hilarious when you think about it.
yeah. Oh dear. Had to wait until not just the end of winter, astronomically and meteorologically. Now we're into the early part of spring.
Yeah, I'm going to
Um,
pull up the teleconnections in just a bit, but as far as watches and warnings are concerned around the country, it's actually still pretty quiet. We do have a working tornado watch, which I'm going to get to in a second. Red flag warnings in parts of northeastern New Mexico into southeastern Colorado and northwestern Texas, so it's gotten bone dry there in a hurry. And some winter storm warning. Oh, I'm sorry, some winter weather advisories that are up for the Sierra Nevadas and parts of the higher terrain of parts of Northern California, and in a few counties in Montana and a few counties in Utah with some winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories. And the rest of the country is just nice and quiet. But Joe, the severe weather tonight, actually seeing a fair amount of it. SPC's got a working tornado watch right now in Tennessee, and we bring that up if only because of the fact that Nashville had that tornado back a few weeks ago, and they certainly
right,
don't want a repeat performance of that.
right. Especially considering that the economy and the health issues are considerably different as opposed to what they had when they were only having to worry about tornadoes a couple of weeks ago
Yeah,
in Nashville area.
yeah. I've just pulled up the mesoscale discussion from SPC. They think tornado potential will likely maximize between now and 8 p.m. Central Time, and it looks like they're looking more toward the border of Tennessee and Alabama. So that small little section you see there, Tennessee, northern Alabama, seems to be greatest risk. Looks like the dew points there are up into the 60s. You get up into further north, the dew points are a little lower. Just kind of, you know, they're the discussion talk. They get very technical in some of these discussions here, um, talking about wind fields in the 2 to 3 kilometer layer in the atmosphere increasing strengthening during the last couple of hours. So I guess that's pointing to some. It continues to appear that the corridor for greatest tornado risk will focus near the Alabama-Tennessee border, with the stronger updrafts and supercells right through early evening. By the way, if you're watching this on a replay later on tonight, remember this is dated, so if you want to make sure you got the latest weather information regarding severe weather or any other kind of weather, go to your local National Weather Service office, or which you can find by going to weather.gov. We've got not too much in severe weather risk the next 2 days, but starting on Friday and Saturday, SPC on their day 4, day 5, pointing to a couple of 15% risk areas in the southern plains on Friday, and shifting east again into Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi for Saturday. And you know how we always say, Joe, when you see the risk on that day 4 to 8 stretch, you should pay attention.
Absolutely, because more often than not, 4 to 8 is just predictability is too low. But if they have enough confidence to start indicating possible activity in the days after day 3, in this case, day 4 and day 5, yeah, take special notice of that. And I'm sure that as we move closer to those events, we're going to see a lot more detail coming up in terms of just how enhanced the field will be for possible convection. Initially, again, as you pointed out, in parts of Missouri and Kansas. That would be for day 4 and day 5 in the Tennessee and Mississippi River Valley.
Right, and then the day 6, day 7, and day 8, it's either potential too low, excuse me, or predictability too low. Meanwhile, tonight we got into the 50s for a fair amount of time this afternoon. It was pretty nice. We had sunny skies. Haven't really clouded over much yet here by me, Joe, and probably not by you. You're about 10 degrees lower than me. You're in the low and mid 40s at the moment. I'm sorry, not 10 degrees lower, about 5 to 7 degrees lower, because I'm in the mid 40s to around 50. So really
Right.
not a bad day, but you can already see though the satellite's kind of loaded here with clouds that are going to start rolling in before too long. They're streaming eastward, And if you look closely, folks, you could see the blow up of the cloud tops in Alabama and into Tennessee, evident by what's on the radar too. If we take a look at the radar tonight, some of those strong thunderstorms are beginning to really gel up here in central Tennessee and moving out of northeast Mississippi, northern Alabama. And by the way, Joe, the northern fringe of rain, not too shabby looking on the radar either for this kind of weather system. Rain
Yep.
into southern Ohio, southern Indiana, southern West Virginia, and into Virginia. That's all moving right along. So I'm going to be curious to see how far north this gets.
Well, like I said, I think we're for us, or at least for the Lower Hudson Valley, I'm thinking for generally clear skies for the first half of the night. Clouds start increasing and thickening up after midnight. Tomorrow, I'm looking for cloud-filled skies through the day, and again a bit of precipitation. In fact, in my forecast, I called it spotty light rain. Really don't think it's going to be of very much intensity. Again, as you point out, we'll be right on the northern periphery of this, and I think the best chance will be between about 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. The one thing that jumps out or stands out, as was the case yesterday, unseasonably chilly air. I don't think temperatures tomorrow, at least up here in the Hudson Valley, are going to get much higher than the mid, maybe even the lower 40s. And the normal high is pretty much where we were today, somewhere in the lower and middle 50s. So it's going to be a noticeable dip in the temperatures for tomorrow versus today. And then the sun comes back out on Thursday, and we go right back up into the upper 40s, low and mid 50s with that sun-filled sky on Thursday.
This high, by the way, that's going up. This is not as cold. This air that's over the Northeast right now, behind yesterday's low, is not quite as cold as the high that we had ahead of this. So that is keeping this from being another repeat performance of what just happened yesterday. But you can see on the NAM, the rain barely makes it up to about New York City as a low runs across Tennessee and Kentucky and eventually redevelops near the North Carolina, Virginia coast, and then just continues to slide to the east-northeast. There's still not a lot of traffic out in the Atlantic yet, but with this blocky pattern it's about to set up, that may, at least down the road, with weather systems, we may start seeing them trying to climb a bit more. If we wind up seeing a weather system getting pushed to the coast, if there's stuff that starts to develop out in the Atlantic, there might be a better chance for that system to climb. There's another, the GFS had it. I don't know if it has it on the new 18Z run, Joe. Let me take a look. The GFS had something coming along about Friday morning, dropping southeastward, and it still does. Has a low in eastern Ohio Thursday night. By Friday morning, it's got this area of rain with a low in central Pennsylvania that just kind of weakens as it moves eastward. The NAB weakened, has a much weaker feature there, so we'll have to see whether that's real or not. I don't know how you feel about that with regards to early Friday morning.
I did mention clouds and maybe a few showers early Friday, and then somewhat of a question mark as to whether or not we'll clear enough for a little bit of sunshine later in the day. And if we're looking at for the upcoming weekend, if you want sunshine, you better get it real early because I think Saturday starts off with a bit of dim sun that fades out, clouds take over, and then from especially Saturday afternoon through Saturday night and on into Sunday, we're just going to be, I think, seeing just some occasional rain and also temperatures which I think is probably not going to be getting out of the 40s. So,
Yep.
and I think I'm not sure which team. I'm not sure if it was the Yankees or the Mets who were supposed to, because opening day was going to be later this week into this weekend. I'm not sure which New York team was supposed to play this weekend here in New York, but it doesn't look like it matters much because it would be much too chilly, and it would also be a bit on the wet side to play baseball. And while I think that, you know, I've seen opening days where they played in the snow. Maybe it's better that that we don't have baseball and force both the players and the fans to play in what looks to be a not so great weekend ahead.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, with everything that's going on, we're not going to have baseball for a while yet. I got the upper air, and I just want to point out what's happening here, and I have the the 500 millibar map analysis for today. So you pretty well can look at this, and if you've been following these live streams every day, when we show you the upper air maps, there's nothing really new here. But I drew a circle. In fact, I'm going to widen that circle out just a little bit. So give me one moment to clean this up. And so if you take a look at this area up here, in the next 5 days or so, we get a complete change in the upper pattern. And you start to build, actually an upper high builds out here in the Atlantic near Iceland. And this is a large part of creating the drop in the North Atlantic oscillation from positive to negative. And the pattern gets, as we said, from the beginning, that we are going into more of a blocky pattern here. And this is no surprise. When you get into the spring, this is what happens. The jet stream begins to weaken. The overall jet stream pattern across North America begins to weaken. And you start to see a general breakdown of the polar vortex. And oftentimes that winds up resolving itself in the form of a rather blocky looking pattern. And that's what we have going into the beginning of April, Joe. I got to tell you, I was kind of looking at these just straight off the teleconnections. And I'm not, I can't really point to anything specific at the moment, but running through this over the next 10 days, where you've got this sort of blocky look to things and weather systems, the short waves that are running around. One of the things I noticed on the teleconnections today is that, a couple of things. First off, the NAO, okay? The NAO goes very strongly negative, and very soon, by the way. We're not waiting out to day 16 for this to happen, but it actually goes negative in about 3 days, which makes sense by given what we just looked at. And by the time we get to the last days of March, going into the very beginning of April, we are actually rather strongly negative here. So from there, what caught my eye was this. You've got from there, you get this rapid rise up to the neutral line around April 5th or so. And when we look at the Pacific North America index, which is off the wall negative right now, which means we have a deep troughing in the west and general ridging in the east and a few other things in a few other geographic places that are all wrong. But this thing really rapidly goes up to the neutral line right around the same time frame. And then when we look at the EPO, which I thought was pretty interesting, the EPO goes from negative right now to slightly positive as we go to the end of the month. And then it drops and goes negative again. Actually, it's strongly negative around the 5th, 6th, or 7th. So, I'm kind of looking at this and I'm thinking, are we getting maybe some kind of a signal here for around April 5th or 6th for something to happen with regards to some sort of storminess somewhere in the east? And then, of course, the intriguing part of this would be the negative East Pacific oscillation, which would tell you that if that's right, there's probably cold air spread out across southern Canada from east to west. Maybe this is your opportunity, Joe, to get that late season surprise. I don't know. I mean, I saw this today and I thought of you. I said, you know what? Interesting that it showed these sorts of the teleconnections are showing up this way. And of course, again, for snow lovers, it's the ultimate insult that we couldn't have this back a couple of months ago. But this is what happens sometimes.
Well, I sometimes like to play with numbers, and sometimes I like to look at lunar cycles. And I think that there is some kind of a weak correlation between what we call the metonic cycle of the moon. Interesting, if you look at the moon, let's say the moon is full on April the 5th. 19 years from now, it will again be full on April the 5th. There was a Greek by the name of Meton who discovered this cycle of recurrence of 19 years. The moon phases and the positioning of the moon seemed to match up after 19 years. Not exactly, but pretty close. Well, if you double that, you get 38 years, and 38 years back takes you to 1982, and April the 6th of 1982 was that extraordinary weird blizzard that we had in New York.
Right.
9.5 inches of snow in New York City. So if there's anything to a connection between the moon and cycles and its influence on the atmosphere, maybe just maybe this. I'm not saying we're going to play.
Do we have a full moon on April 5th?
We have a full moon. We have actually a super moon, I believe, around the 7th or 8th of April.
Oh, all right.
It's the so-called. It's the moon. It's called the Paschal full moon. It's the moon that helps to set the date of Easter. It's the first full moon of spring, and the first Sunday after the first spring full moon is Easter Sunday.
So Easter Sunday is the 11th?
12th.
12th? Okay.
12th.
Gotcha.
Ask the president. He's
right.
been looking at Easter too.
That's his. Yeah, I saw that he mentioned that. So I'm just kind of looking at the GFS going forward in the long range, and with this blocky scenario developing, one of the consequences of that is you're going to have weather systems that are going to be dropping, either dropping south out of Canada or moving eastward, and they're going to try to take more southern routes than they have been. And you see here, as we head into the weekend, you do have a low that comes out of Kansas, and you notice how the precip is all strung out east-west. There's actually higher pressure that is higher pressures that are just kind of stretched out to the north, and that's part of this blocky scenario that develops. It also slows these weather systems down. So this is where the spring can get very frustrating. You can get into a weather system and wind up having to deal with it for 2 to 3 days before it gets out of the way. And there's also a lot of them running around, a lot of short waves running around, so like one after another after another. So I would just suggest that if you wind up seeing sunshine on a given day, take advantage of it, because it's likely that dry weather stretches are only going to last for a day or so before you have to deal with either an onshore flow and a lot of clouds, or a lot of clouds and some sort of precipitation. And I'm just kind of running through the latest GFS going out to 384 hours, Joe. And of course, there's your 998 low, day 16, which is April 9th. Sitting east of Delaware and the New Jersey coast, with a little bit of dark blue snow indicated in some of the mountains in northern Pennsylvania, southern New York State. So we know that's not going to be there on the next run, but just because we're on the air and just for you, it did it on today's 18Z run.
Okay. Well, you know how much credence I have with the intermediate 6 and 18Z runs, and don't forget that. What was it, just about a week ago, they had some kind of a monster closed-off system.
Oh, yeah, no, that was ridiculous.
That was on what, the 3rd of April?
Yeah, with the thicknesses that were so off the wall below, for this time of year, it would have been temperatures being like 25 degrees or more below average.
May I quote Mr. Mertz, Mr. Fred Mertz?
Oh, please do.
All right. Nice try, though.
Yes. Just want to say, Steve Lapointe, thanks for hitting Super Chat tonight. Really appreciate it. And who else? We got Scott Briller. Thank you very much for hitting Super Chat tonight. So we've got Steve Lapointe, Scott Briller. We have Mark G hitting Super Chat as well. And we also have Johnny Quest. It was Johnny Quest's birthday yesterday. So we should say happy birthday to Johnny Quest.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Johnny. Happy birthday to you. I just scare everybody off.
Marilyn Monroe is just frightened. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Johnny.
Mr. President.
Yes. Happy birthday to
And we do
you.
not discriminate to anybody, no matter how much the chip in on super chats. Izzy D, 99 cents. There must be a reason.
Yes.
It's
And by the way,
99.
folks, just bear in mind, it's hard for me. I'm kind of maneuvering this on two different screens. So if I'm switching screens with weather maps, I can't. Sometimes I can see the chat, sometimes I can't. So I got to move stuff around. So I got to the board a little bit late. So just bear with me, bear with us
And
on
Jaylon
these sorts of
Jaylon Perry.
situations. What's that?
Jaylon Perry's $2 in super chats with a question.
Awesome.
Is it possible to get snow away from coast April?
Yeah, of course it is. It's also possible to get snow on the coast in April. It depends on, it depends on all the, during the depths of winter, how much cold air do you have, and, where's the high, where's the low going to track, and how much cold air wedges in along the East Coast. But yeah, it's still possible. I think it's probably possible. Technically, you probably have enough time at least into the middle of the month. But bear in mind, things have to be perfect. Somebody's.
Listen,
Hold on, I have to answer the telephone. Where is he? Addison, where are you? Hold on, I'm still figuring out these group chat things. Let's see. No, oh wait, hold on.
Here comes another one.
Well, who do you have? You see them?
So Andrew Pinero.
Okay, hang on, guys.
Gee, it's like old home week.
No, I know I invited everybody tonight, but now the problem is I can't figure out how to get these people on here. All right, so let me call Addison first. Oh, this is so ridiculous. Hello. Add Addison Green, add Andrew Pinheiro. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so guys, try calling again. Oh, Jeffrey's calling. Hold on. No, is that Addison? Addison?
Hello.
Is that Addison?
I can't see. I just see a
Oh,
box with like a group icon.
hang on. Addison, I hear something.
I heard somebody say hello.
Hello? Somebody's in there. I can hear it. You can see how technically, seriously, this is where I want to strangle myself.
This is great technology, ladies and
It
gentlemen.
is. Why do they have to make things so darn difficult? It's asking me if I want to remove Addison from the call. I can't even hear him.
Can you hear me?
Oh, who is that? Is that Andrew? Hello?
Oh, hello.
Andrew?
Hello, I can hear you.
You hear me? Turn your camera on.
It's connected.
No, I see a big.
There we go.
I see a big AP.
There we go.
I thought AMP went out of business.
Yeah. No, I still can't see you, Andrew.
Let's see.
Oh, wait, there you go. You have just appeared.
Windows did not have permission.
Yeah, I see him now.
We just see your face. You're not moving. You're not a living thing.
No
movement. Oh, now you are. Okay. Excellent. Hold on. I got to make Brady Bunch boxes here, so hang on one second. Okay, so everybody, this is Andrew Pinheiro, who used to be at Fireswan News and worked weekends and occasionally produced. Haven't seen you since our last days. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, but on your camera, something's blocking the top. I only see your mouth.
Oh, hold on.
No, that's normal, Andrew.
Yeah, it
That's normal.
is.
Oh, okay.
You see me?
I just see the mouth, but yeah.
You only see my mouth?
Yeah, I don't see your
Oh,
eyes.
it's that thing, that shade that is
Oh,
Oh,
top
okay.
of your head from the camera or whatever.
well, I don't want to block Joe out. I could come up in between on my screen. We've got 3 boxes out of 4. So what
Yeah,
have you
but
been up
per-
to?
you on YouTube, you're perfect, Joe. It's just that on Skype, the
Oh,
angle.
okay. It cuts off on Skype.
Got
Okay.
it.
Um, what have you been up to?
Since FiOS, I've been working. I work at Apple, but the past couple of weeks we've all been on the home quarantine.
Are you working from home?
Yeah, we just got like little trainings and stuff, but yeah, we're keeping busy.
Oh, okay. So they don't. It's not like you can make sales from home.
No,
Do you miss the weekend grind?
I do, except the early hours I didn't like.
No. Yeah, well, that I've always said that shift would kill you. Joe, talk to Andrew. I'm gonna see if I can find Addison.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time Andrew and I were together. I think Andrew, you may have a better handle on this. I think it was that October Saturday where you were more or less my producer and I was doing the shows on camera. But it was the same Saturday that they had that horrendous tragedy in Pittsburgh with the shooter in Pittsburgh.
Yes, I think it was something with weather that you were supposed to be on and not me, but then it ended up having the shooter thing.
Right. And in fact, our former boss ended up being there that day, Renee Price, our news director. And it was kind of a crazy Saturday. I'm not even sure why I was in there that particular, unless there was some kind of a hurricane that was threatening.
I think that it was something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what, the funny thing about that was, I was coming in that morning. I woke up. I'm driving to work. It's like 3:15 in the morning, and I'm listening as I'm driving into work. The the World Series game between the Red Sox and the Dodgers had just ended. I think the Dodgers won that game. But I'm listening to the post game show. I'm listening to the post game show of a baseball game that started when I went to bed.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
That was weird. That was weird. I see Addison, Joe. Did you see that?
Yeah, I see that. I'm gonna see if I can try to get him on here.
I saw his message.
Uh, hold on. Where'd everybody go? Help
I'm
me! Help! Oh, now I've got Addison, but I don't have everybody else.
Well, hello, Cioffi.
Who else is here?
Just me so far.
All right, hang on a second. This is really ridiculous. Let me call Joe Rayo back. I'll get him. Let's get Andrew back. Let's see if I can get Jeffrey in here.
Ah, young Jeffrey.
All right. So now that this is, I'm sorry, I'm just having a rough time. I'm so excited about the fact that I could get, more than 2 people, more than one person on at Skype at the same time. So yesterday we had this perfect group situation going on with Joe Rayo and Bill Kirk of Weather Trends 360 and myself, and now, I was going to try to expand it to 3 or 4. I just had Joe and Andrew on, but then you called in and I lost them.
Oh man. Did they call you? Or did you call them initially?
I just tried to call them now. I got it set up as a group chat.
Ah, gotcha.
Let's see.
Your
No.
camera is like below your monitor or something.
Yeah, no,
I
don't
always see
worry.
it
On
weird.
YouTube, it looks fine. I'll put you over
Okay.
here. Hang on. So everybody, Addison is. I know it's kind of sloppy tonight, but Addison is down in Houston now.
Mm-hmm.
So which station are you at Houston?
The CBS station, KHOU.
KHOU. I used to work in Corpus Christi. Was my first on-air job in South Texas, which is a couple of 100 miles south of where you are, and with much better beaches. So how is it going? Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, so far as much as I can, except for the past several weeks, kind of in lockdown over here, but making the most of it. The beaches are great. We were at Galveston a couple of weeks ago, and it was fun. Now we're just starting to heat up. Like, gonna get our first 90 of the season tomorrow, 91 on Thursday, and then the heat ridge breaks down, and then we have much more pleasant weather next week. But yeah, just for the time being, it's feeling like summer is creeping up real fast, Joe. To see why you left.
Well, it is kind of tough to take once you get into that regular 90 every day and the high humidity. It's not fun, and then of course you get the thunderstorms that usually pop up at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Um, what have how's the late winter, early spring been so far?
Honestly, it wasn't that bad here. I mean, maybe because I just moved down here in December, but their winter with temperatures in the 50s, for the most part, I was fine. Walk around in a light jacket at best. We did have a few freeze threats throughout the season, and we did have at least one or two wintry precip threats, but the freezing rain, sleet didn't really materialize much of anything in the city at all. You have to go way north and west to like College Station, Bryan, to see that
Hmm.
happen. But overall, the winter wasn't that bad. But I gotta tell you, when it was gray and gloomy, like overcast all day, and like just scattered showers, you just felt the chill in the air. Like something about the moisture content down here just sucks the heat out of you. If there's no sunlight at all, the warmth
Oh,
doesn't come.
it takes
Very, very nice.
it actually takes the life out of you.
Yeah.
So,
So going outside, you don't
tell
want to do much.
tell us a little bit about we're sort of on lockdown up here with the coronavirus stuff that's going on. So we're just kind of curious what because we haven't been hearing too much about what's happening in Texas. So maybe you
Yeah.
could fill us in on that.
Sure. It's mostly the major cities that are dealing with the higher number of cases, as you would kind of guess because of the denser populations. But the state itself is going through stay-at-home requirements or just pretty much suggestions. Houston, though, I think they issued that mandate yesterday, the day before, saying like, no, if you don't have to go to work, if you're not an essential employee, stay home. There have been I forgot lost track of the numbers of how many fatalities unfortunately we've had here, but I think we've had several hundred cases prove positive within the Houston metro area itself. The city is taking it pretty seriously. They are having us shut down everything. The governor, I just said, shut down everything. I think earlier this week of bars, restaurants, gyms,
Right.
resorts, casinos, all that stuff. Anything recreational was all taken down. You can't be a part of that.
Okay. So
And
hey, hold on, Addison. Hang on one second. I got all three
yeah,
of
sure.
them back. All three are
Joe and
up.
I, Joe and I figured out how to do that.
Oh, okay. So wait a minute.
Bravo,
Um,
bravo,
I,
Andrew, bravo.
I hear where
Addison.
there's
Ready,
Addison.
ready?
Okay, so let me
Yeah, yeah,
sh-
yeah.
let me minimize myself into a corner, and now we've got sort of Brady Bunch boxes. So I was just asking Addison about what's going on in Texas with regards to the coronavirus. One of the things that's happening up here.
Hmm.
First of all, New York City in particular is the hot spot, and New York State is the hot spot. But what apparently is happening now is that um, cases on Long Island are growing pretty rapidly because a lot of people from New York, in order to escape that particular hotspot, seem to be coming out here. In fact, I did see a story where they're renting houses out in the Hamptons at rates that are even higher than what they usually get for the summertime.
Of course. Well,
I'm
that's the
sure.
American way, Joe. That's
Well,
the American right.
naturally. I mean, I don't even go out to I went out on the North Fork on Saturday, which is a lot more pleasant. The South Fork to me, I just can't do it. It's
No.
it's especially in the summertime, the traffic is horrendous, And I just don't find it to be a very folks that don't live here. They hear about the quote unquote Hamptons, and it's not that it's not a nice place. It certainly is, and it's quite there's a lot of beautiful spots out there to see, but it's also incredibly crowded, horrifically expensive.
Oh yeah.
It costs food costs about 4 or 5 times as much as it does anywhere else
It's
in
not
the
worth it,
season.
honestly.
No, I'm not doing that. So, but that's what's happening now. You get the city folks that usually rent these houses for $10,000 a week or more out in the Hamptons are coming out now. Great.
Just what you want.
Right.
I heard the same thing in Florida too.
Also, well, in the Hudson Valley, and now apparently in Florida, if you fly to Florida, if you fly down to Florida, you go into a 14-day quarantine.
Yeah.
So, a lot of folks were kind of booking flights to Florida in April because the airfares are so cheap. But now, if they do go down there and come off the plane, they're going to have to go to immediately into some sort of I think it's self quarantine. I don't think it's state mandated quarantine.
I mentioned
I
on
mean, a
Sunday.
state run quarantine.
I mentioned on Sunday's show that somebody was flying down to Florida to be with their mother, and they said that the flight from New York to Miami, her flight was like $45.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Hey Andrew,
It's
they're coming up. They're coming up to the Hudson Valley too. They're going up up where the wineries are, further
Okay.
north. Where there's a lot of summer, some summer homes up in the Hudson Valley. Those are all booked up too.
Yeah, I'm from Washingtonville, where the Brotherhood Winery was.
Yeah, there's some bed and breakfast. There was
Yep.
they highlighted some bread and breakfast. I forgot the name of it. Beautiful place when they showed it, and I think they were getting was it $600 or $700 a night? Those are
Yeah,
that's very expensive for bed and a stack of pancakes.
yeah. Well, the Brotherhood Winery is the oldest in the area.
Is it really?
I think it's the oldest in the New York City metro area.
No kidding. There's the
I know that.
the wineries out here. Of course, it's still not. It's off season, so they were all closed.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, what are you doing? Are you social distancing?
Yes. Well, I do have the type 1 diabetes, so I'm trying to avoid any
Oh, do you?
possibility.
I didn't know that.
Yep. I've had type 1 diabetes 20 years now.
Really? So
Yes.
you're at higher risk.
Yeah.
Joe and I are at higher risk mainly simply because we exist. We're both over 60. Addison, Addison, you and I have been practicing social distancing with each other for the longest time.
There we are. Far away.
Oh God, I do miss. We had, we certainly did have a lot of fun though, on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I missed that. I missed you guys, and it's not the same anymore. But I'm glad that we are, still got the chat growing, and still get a chance to do things like this now. So that's fun. And Cioffi, I like the facial hair. You not being on air is doing you well.
If I go back on air, which I'm not, but if on the outside chance that they ask me to go on, if somebody calls up and says, "Hey, you want to do a couple of days freelance," they either take me with the facial hair or they don't take me at all because I ain't shaving it.
Nope. Once you get going, you're like, I'm keeping this.
I'm not shaving. You got yours going for on air, correct?
Yeah, I was surprised and glad that they were able to let me keep it. And my news director is all about you being yourself, whatever makes you feel comfortable. So in the weeks that I had before coming down here, I wasn't on air. I just let it go, and then when I got down here, I cleaned it up and showed her, and she's like, "I like it. Let's see how it looks on air."
No, it does look. It does look very nice.
Thank you.
It
Yeah,
does look very nice.
Mine
Mine is multicolored.
Yeah, see a little salt and pepper action right there.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a lot of work. I bought the beard oil because it gets very dry. It actually, when you shave it off, when I've grown it before, you shave it off, it falls into the sink. It really looks like Brillo, and it feels like Brillo. So I use the beard oil to kind of keep it soft. And
Okay.
also the skin underneath dries up sometimes and it'll crack. So, it'll get itchy. I'll scratch it and it'll bleed. So, I put the oil on here to keep everything nice and smooth. I'm loving it. It gives me the serial killer look.
No one's gonna mess with you. Just go on here like that.
Joe,
Like, we try
Joe, when you were at News 12 Long Island, you actually grew a mustache, right?
Yes, I had it going in.
And they called you in and they said that some of the Q ratings or whatever said that you need to shave it off because one of them said you looked sinister.
Yes. Well, the funny thing is, at that point in my life when I was young, when I grew it because the consultants told me that I looked too young and that I needed something to make me look older. So I grew the mustache. And of
Right.
course, those same consultants then a few years later told me to shave the mustache because
consultants.
yeah, this is what consultants do in television.
That's the only thing they're there
Keep
for.
flip flopping.
Well, then go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
They have to make consultants make their money on finding something. They're fault finders, and it doesn't matter if the fault is this big or that big. They have to do their job. Or they have to prove to the station that they are consulting for that they found all these little things, and be it a mustache or a beard, or you look too young, you look too old, you got to do this, you got to do that. And thank goodness that Addison, of course, is down in Texas and still in the business. But in some cases, I know that Joe, you agree with me, and I'm not doing TV anymore. That I don't have to deal with that on a daily basis or on an irregular basis.
Well, one of the things that I got said to me too was just along the same lines was later on was the fact that they told me to shave. No, I just forgot. Oh, now I remember. So when I was looking for a job, when I was down south and looking for jobs to move out of the South, I was told when I first tried to find work on TV on air, I was told that I sounded too much like a New Yorker and I would never get hired by a station in the South. So and of course, what happened? I got hired in Corpus Christi, Texas, which is almost as far south geographically as you can go, except for Brownsville. And then I worked in probably one of the more southern cities in terms of culture, was New Orleans. And I worked there for 3 years. And then as I was looking to leave the South, the consultants told me, oh, you'll never get a job up. I kind of expressed interest that I wanted to go back up north into the Northeast or maybe around the Great Lakes. I said, oh, you'll never work up north. You sound too much like a Southerner. Seriously.
Can't win.
That's why they're all full of crap.
I'm so glad I haven't met one yet here.
Let everybody know here who is watching that Addison has a very special job. On Sunday, he is the guy that provides the weather forecast for the best television show, I think, on television, Sunday morning, CBS Sunday morning. They show the weather map for only about 10 seconds, but in that 10-second time, it's a national map for today and then the week ahead or whatever. But the last couple of weeks, they have not been doing anything like that because of the quarantine, and the shows have been much different. So the last couple of weeks, Addison, I guess you haven't had to do that, have you? Or
oh, really? They didn't tell me that because I've still been sending in that stuff. And, they haven't been using it. Oh, that's comforting enough.
Hey, hold on. Wait. Bottom, are you getting paid?
Yes.
Is the check still coming?
Yes.
Well, okay, you know what? I'll edit. I will edit this out of the live stream just in case. As long as you're getting paid, that's all that matters. And by the way, that 10 seconds of weather has gotten you how many Emmys now?
4.
You got 4 Emmys for that 10-second weather map.
That's it. It's part of the team.
Exactly.
And I've been nominated 8 times. And I've been nominated 8 times and have done like science reports that took days and weeks to put together, sweated blood almost. I've ended up with nothing. This guy does 10-second weather forecast and ends up with 4 Emmys. 4, not just 4 regular Emmys, They're national
The
Emmys,
national
right?
Emmys, yeah. So
They're
the
national.
statues are a little.
You forget it's the 10 best seconds of weather you're going to get for the week. So
That's
that's all
right.
you need.
Do you have to pay for that statue?
Yes.
You do. So you're like everybody else, just because it's a national. They make you pay for it anyway.
Oh yeah, trust me. That's why that goes with me everywhere. I'm not leaving that behind. I'm like, I paid for that bad boy, and I don't want to have to get a new one. So
Exactly.
Mm.
Andrew.
You can pawn it off.
Looks good. It also llooks good on the resume.
yes, exactly. I'm like, just put it right at the top, bam.
By the way, guys, on the you got those of you watching on the chat board. If you got some questions, I can see the chat board right now. So throw the questions up there, and we'll certainly try and answer them. Okay, and I'm running through
YouTube,
it.
you said?
What's that?
This is on YouTube, you said?
It's on YouTube, so just you guys want to keep an eye on the chat. You could see Johnny Quest says that the four of us should start our own weather channel so we can get rid of the other one. Hey, Andrew.
It's been tried.
Yeah.
Andrew. Tell everybody about your gaming channel.
Yes. So that's actually tonight too. As soon as we finish, I'm going to go into that. And I kind of start this as it's called Games and Storms. So I go in through a forecast discussion for the 7-day forecast coming up. And then after that, I play a video game that I choose for the week. But the big one that just came out this past Friday's Doom Eternal. And that's been a really fun game. So I'll be playing that on the game stream too. I've had Star Wars Fallen Order has been fun. Played Minecraft.
Busy man. I'm jealous.
So what's the how do folks get onto your game channel?
So that's with on YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/Andrew Pinero.
Okay, so let me do that for you, and I will put it on the chat board here. So hang on. And then, of course, just stick around because we're going to play Briller Jeopardy in a moment. Hey, by the way, Andrew, because you know about these things, have you noticed some weird stuff going on with YouTube in the last week or so?
Yes, actually, I was just telling Joe Rayo that. So
Okay,
besides
so it wasn't,
we were talking about the
it wasn't my
notifications.
imagination then.
No, so besides the notifications not going out, which videos I've uploaded, I've had people comment like, I did not get notified your video went up. That was one thing, but the other was the last time I went live, which was on Saturday. I tried to do like a weekend outlook. Oh, no, it was Friday night. I try to do a weekend outlook forecast every Friday night, but this time, within 2 minutes of going live, the video was removed from YouTube for inappropriate content.
Yeah, that's right. You did show that to me, and I for the life of me, I don't understand it. I'm having the regulars on my live stream are not getting notifications like they do every night, because I usually set the live stream up a couple of hours early, and I open up the chat board and just schedule it for 7 o'clock, and a lot of the folks kind of get in early and they talk with each other, but yeah, the notifications aren't going out. It's just been I know that they have very few human beings actually working right now, and I think that's because Facebook's having the same issue with some of their tools. But I just put the link up for everybody on the chat board to Andrew's YouTube channel. So if you're into gaming, and of course if you're into weather, Andrew's got does all of that. So you might want to check that out. Daniel Fitzsimmons, snow at the coast in May is probably a little bit too far-fetched. That one time it happened in 1977 was a really freak situation. So it would have to be an absolutely ridiculously unusual situation, because when you look at records, there isn't anything regarding any kind of measurable snow, I think, after about, say, February 24th or 5th. So it would really have to be extremely out of the ordinary. That at least that's my little old never to be humble opinion from somebody that used to work in the South. Now let me get I'll get Briller Jeopardy up here. Scott Briller is guys is on one of the regulars on the chat board. In fact, he's usually the first one on, so he always submits a question So let's see if you can get this one. Okay, so on March 22nd, 1998, there was a surprise. Surprise 5-inch snowstorm that hit New York City. What was significant about that one particular event that made it stand out for the whole winter?
Can I disqualify myself?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was 7 years old at the time.
Well, you should know that. Age is not an excuse.
Andy should know over this point.
No answer? As it happened, by the way, that was the only snowfall of consequence, really, of the entire winter. It occurred outside of the winter season, and had it not been for that 5-inch snowfall, New York City would have just gotten 5/10ths of an inch of snow for the whole winter.
Which pretty much is what Philadelphia had this
yes,
winter.
That was, exactly. And that particular snow, I remember what was also significant about it was that it only fell in about a 30-mile radius that happened to hit over New York City, because if you weren't inside that 30 or 40-mile radius, you got nothing. You got either some rain or hardly anything. It was a very, very small scale type of system. So
right.
That's
what kind of tiny storm was that?
Yeah, and the thing is, with the way the winter turned out up here, Andrew, how much snow did you get this winter up your way? You're up in Rockland County, right?
Yeah, there's really only one snowstorm that had like a accumulating snow that was measurable. Everything else was maybe an inch or less than that, so I would say less than a foot, definitely.
You didn't get you didn't get anything yesterday other than a little bit at the start, right?
It coated the like grassy areas. The roads didn't get anything, but grass and sidewalks got covered. That was about a dusting there.
Oh, all right. Say, Addison.
Yes, sir.
There's a helicopter in your room? Are you getting ready for takeoff?
Oh, that's the wow, I'm surprised you can hear it. That's the central.
No, I can't hear it. No, but you have a ceiling fan on, don't you?
Oh, the ceiling fan. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got next time.
The air moving around here.
No, I was going to say next time center the camera so that you're under the ceiling fan. This way, it looks like you're wearing a hat.
Long.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, sort of.
Sort of. Make your hair flow long.
My big Texas size hat. There we go.
Oh, did you get a Stetson yet?
No, I was going to, and I was going to go to the Houston Rodeo. It's a big event down here that they have every year.
Yeah.
It was like a state fair. And 2 days before I was going to go, on my day off, they canceled it because of everything breaking out with coronavirus, and then everything started domino effect. So I was just about to go to the store and go buy cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and whatnot.
Oh, so you don't have your boots yet either?
No, I don't have anything yet. So I got to become a true Texan and get all that stuff.
Well,
yes.
Well, also, you got to. Have you eaten rattlesnake yet?
Nope, I can't say I've had that. Nor have I seen one. I'm not sure I want to.
What about?
I didn't know where you can get one.
Have you had armadillo?
No, just traditional barbecue.
Okay.
Nothing fancy yet. Wait, where do I have to go to get all these animals?
Let me just say, I have had rattlesnake when I went to Arizona about 20 years ago, and I can tell you it tastes exactly like chicken.
Yes. Well, everything tastes like chicken. Armadillo you can find in Texas because that's roadkill.
Yeah, you know what? I think I did see something like that on the side of the road, but it wasn't really recognizable.
Yeah,
I flipped my camera over, so
yeah, no, now you're 2/3. I got to find a spot for me. Hang on a second.
Joe, there's something interesting.
I'll just leave myself in the lower corner here.
There we go.
Yeah. So this was.
I forgot to partition myself.
Go ahead, Joe.
Both Andrew and I, the background looks like look like the same to you, Andrew. The back wall here is like all of a sudden like fuzzy.
It's blurred. It's the shallow depth of field effect that Skype does.
Okay.
Yeah,
oh,
I don't see that on my end.
Andrew, it's so exciting when you get technical.
Oh, the bokeh quality is pretty nice in the shallow depth of field of about an F. Well, I'd call that 2.8.
I would have said I was just about to say the same thing. Joe would probably say it's a 2.7, but he tends to be a little more a little more technical.
Yeah, Joe's actually more about a 1.4 right now.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
1.4 was a
forgive,
1.9.
Forgive me.
Oh, give me a break.
So I went to Costco today, and
ventured out.
Yeah. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Somebody sing the Jeopardy tune.
Oh,
Isn't that a copyright thing?
You're not going to go get your toilet paper
Play
again.
the Jeopardy theme song.
I'm about to say, did he go to Costco and they actually find toilet paper?
Last week
Because
he
I didn't
was.
find any when I went.
Last week he was showing
Oh, it was
off
too hard for me to get. We went to Costco today. Okay.
There's only a little bit.
So I went to Costco today, and actually it was quite interesting because it was as empty in all the years that I've been going to Costco. It was empty. I mean, I must have got there just like at the perfect time because there were just a handful of people in the store. They had toilet paper, and even though we really didn't need any, I just felt like I had to buy some just to be
Joe,
sort
you're
of
crazy.
Well, I bought it was usually I get the Scott paper, which is what I've been showing on the air, the 1,000 sheets per roll, but they didn't have it. All they had was Charmin. So I had to buy
1,000 rolls of toilet paper.
No, not 1,000 rolls, 1,000 sheets of the Scott paper. So I just bought I bought one thing, just one thing of Charmin, okay, and that's it. I didn't buy
just one roll, a singular roll.
One sheet. It's Costco. It's Costco.
One pack? I guess?
This big.
Yeah, one package with like 20 rolls in it. And then you bring it back and say it didn't work. The sheets were broken.
Yeah, used already, of course.
Versus the 1,000 rolls that people can buy.
That's correct. But it was really, it was empty, and I did something that I don't normally do, but I'm trying to be, really conscious. So I kind of wiped down the cart, and I had a mask on. I wasn't like a huge fan of wearing masks because then it fogs up my glasses. But I did what I tried to practice good habits while I was outside, and I did the whole social distancing thing, which is of course something I practice on a regular basis anyway when I'm in public.
That's your way of life anyway.
Exactly.
Here comes Joe Cioffi.
So we got a question for you from Okie AG Addison. Okie, who's an occasional regular here. We see him from time to time, especially in during severe weather. Actually, we could also address it. What causes some tornadoes to go anticyclonic?
I know we talked about this before, and
I remember
the reason why.
Was it the possibility that the funnels were too close together?
So.
Wasn't didn't have to do if you had funnel clouds that formed like really close to each other, that one would rotate the opposite direction?
Don't they call it the Fujiwara effect?
Andrew, you got to know this. This is good. This has got to be something you know. We've all been out of school a whole lot longer than you have, so you might actually remember what some of the stuff you were taught.
I don't remember like the official terms or anything, but it was something. If we go into astronomy a little bit, it almost sounds like if you have two galaxies colliding, the same kind of like rotations happening, and one has to rotate the opposite of the other. I feel like there was something around that. I just forgot the exact the terms and the science with that.
I know what you're referring to. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to, but I forgot the actual technical name for it. But I know it's kind of rare.
Oh, hang on, hold on, guys. Hang on, this could get exciting. Oh God, how am I gonna do this? Brian, is that you?
That is me, Joseph.
All right, hang on a second, Brian. I'm kind of trying to figure out how to get you on the
Cardinals get-
screen here.
That's all right if we can't.
Joe and I had to press a join call button
Oh,
within
wait,
the
does
Skype
he-
app.
Yeah, the Skype app. All right, so I actually have. I don't know if can you guys. I can't. I don't know if I can put this up here. Hang on a second, Brian. Let's see if I can bring you in a different way. I actually can probably bring you. No, I can't. This is. I'm very upset right now. All right, hang on, Brian. You guys talk. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get you in here.
Okay.
Joe, how are you enjoying peace and quiet?
Oh, you know what, Brian? Brian,
Yes.
Or Joe Ray, I should say.
hey, I think I figured it out. Hang up, and I'll call you right back.
All right.
Okay.
Here's the story of a lovely lady. I was looking at the four of us in boxes here.
Well, let's see if we can get 5 now.
Box.
Hey,
There he is. He's there.
Why is he in a tiny window?
Wait, I don't hear Brian.
Brian, I
You don't
can't hear
hear
you.
me?
Oh, now
there
we
we go. There you.
turn your audio up just a little bit.
I don't have a way of turning audio up.
Oh, okay. I mean, we can hear you. We can hear you, but you're just a smidge low.
I don't know. I'm using my phone.
All right, hang on one second. Let me see if I could boost the audio on my end.
Oh, yeah.
He's here.
How's the audio now?
Okay, it's a little
Now I hear you.
better.
There he is.
It's a bit better. Okay, so now we've got Brian Fitzgerald. We've got a 5 box.
We're doing good here.
Of course, Addison has the biggest box.
Well,
Everything's bigger in Texas.
There we go.
So,
we
uh,
got the chief
Addison,
back.
where is your cowboy hat?
We just talked
Don't
about
have it
that.
yet. I was gonna get it for. We have a big rodeo that goes down here every year, and I was
Of
gonna
course,
go
yeah.
a couple weeks ago, and they canceled it just before I was able to go for the virus outbreak. So there was my chance to get a nice cowboy hat and boots. So I'll get one soon as all this breaks down.
My mind is racing with horse puns, but I just can't think of any right now.
so
Pull the trigger, Brian.
Brian, can I just ask sort of it's somewhat of a personal question.
You could ask anything you'd like, Joe.
Okay, so all right, so you're at home.
I am at home.
You're with little ones.
I am.
Okay. Given the state of the way the world is right now, where we're sort of pinned in our homes with our little ones and also our significant others, and being that this is March, are we going to be hearing that in December that you've got another one, another one in the house? Well, a few people.
That you are not going to be hearing.
I only bring that up because a few people have pointed out that just like when you have these big snowstorms, there's usually like a little bump up in birth, 9 months or so later in births.
Blackout in 65.
Right. Except that a few other people have opined that with everybody kind of trapped into the house all at the same time, for a long period, you're all going to go stir crazy.
Yeah, 3's enough on this end. Just even if we just have to break it down financially, I think 3's the maximum.
All right, good. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get that personal.
No, you are the first person to ask me that, but you're not the first person to generally bring up that topic. I've heard that before.
Dr. Oz on television was talking about that.
Was he really?
Yeah, wait till you're gonna have a bunch of mid-December babies.
Too funny.
Like, oh boy. Good to see you, Brian. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys as well. This is pretty cool in the midst of craziness in the world. It's nice to see some familiar faces.
That it is.
Brian, I think I heard just a snippet of this, and you probably know better than any of us up here. But is it true that the gentleman who works weekends at NBC National News, Jose Diaz-Balart, was tested for coronavirus positive, or was that something that just?
Oh, you know what? I know Jose. I have yet to hear that news. So you may have heard that before I did.
I heard I heard the president say it. This is back on Friday, I think, or Saturday.
Okay, so
Is that?
I'll tell you this. I generally, I've been out of the mix because we've all been working from home, and so even when there is someone who tests positive, while it is kind of company-wide news, they probably don't just blast it out in an email. So that's the first time I've heard of it, but certainly is possible.
Yeah.
By the way,
Brittany are working from home.
by the way, I just want to mention, I have actually ranted a couple of times about, the stuff that's been, going on recently with respect to, some of the stuff that I've seen on social media and, all these different conspiracy theories. Um, one of the things that's been out there is that all of this, you don't see it now, but you did see it maybe back a week or two ago about this being a hoax. And I just wanted to mention the fact that one of my high school friends, who's I won't, she's been working on the front lines in all of this. So she's a nurse. She tested today. She tested positive for the coronavirus. She's got mild symptoms, thank God, and it's not too bad. But also, a relative of mine, in hindsight, turns out that may have also contracted it while he was in Italy back in January, and this was before they, this was only maybe at the very beginning when the first inklings of the story was coming out in the news, and he was treated there and then flew back and then had to be treated here for what they thought was bronchitis at the time, but was more than likely misdiagnosed. So it has gotten close to my home in terms of in terms of being there. So if anybody thinks that this stuff isn't real, that somehow it's all made up, you really need to go have your head examined. Okay, seriously. You need to go have your head examined.
Put your head back in the sand.
Yeah, no. The reason why you are paranoid is because, probably people are plotting against you.
Joe, it's a funny thing you say paranoid because both my wife and I, the last couple of days, like for example, this morning I woke up and I thought that I had kind of a scratchy throat, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh no, is this possible?" And she said that she also had some symptoms which went away quick, and I think it's more mental
well, it could be, and it could be just the normal stuff that goes around at any given time. You don't really know.
Right. Well, and that's the interesting point, right? And I had a friend point this out to me. He goes, I think people forget that just because the coronavirus is out there, other viruses don't cease to exist.
Right, exactly.
They're still there as well.
No, yeah, of course, and I think all of us. I mean, I probably the same thing. You get a little sniffle, and you start to think, is this something, a scratchy throat or whatever? You feel a little bit off on a given day. I was thinking back to the fact that I had a cold, what I thought was a cold, and I still think it was a cold, back at the beginning of January, and it was very mild. But the thing is, it took over 2.5, which is unusual for me. How when you get a cold, the first couple of days are really pretty rough, and then it starts to get better as each day goes by. Well, with me, it was the first couple of days. It was just kind of like hanging. It felt like it was going to come out in full blast, but never did. But instead of just clearing up quickly, it just seemed to linger for almost 2 weeks, which is pretty unusual for me. So, looking back at that, I'm thinking, well, was that something? It was probably not. Like you said, you get your normal stuff is running around regardless.
And again, you get that
way too
paranoid.
much running around. Way too much.
I know a couple of friends of mine, and one of them, I wasn't aware of this, but according to one of the television doctors, I think Dr. John LaPook on CBS who said that
Mhm.
that you've lost your sense of smell, that
Smell
might
and
be
taste.
that might
Oh,
actually be
interesting.
one of the symptoms of coronavirus. And this particular person said, "I've lost my sense of smell." She was making asparagus apparently, and
Yes.
couldn't smell the asparagus, and now she's all like, "Ooh."
Well, my
But the
friend,
interesting thing is,
go ahead,
but the
Joe. I'm
interesting
sorry.
thing here in New York is that they're telling you that unless you are deathly ill, unless you really feel that you're going to be, on the floor in a second, they don't really want you to come to the testing centers because the testing centers are already overcrowded. They said only in the most extreme cases do they want you to come to get tested. If you're walking around and you say, "Well, I may have it, but I don't feel so bad," you're
No, they
supposed to.
won't test you. You have
They
to
won't.
have they have to have really obvious systems. And of course, one of the ironies right now is the fact that at least in New York, they've been talking about this is something that really bothered me because of the
Yeah.
five of us here, Joe and I are the two grandfathers in the group. Okay, so we're over 60. So we were at risk, and it really was mind-boggling to me as I'm reading people posting comments about the fact that, well, the only people that it affects are people over 60, and the only people that it affects are people that have pre-existing other conditions going on. So it was the implication was it's okay to let those people die. All right, let's just let's sacrifice that particular age group. Now, after as it turns out, and I firmly believe that this is part of it. You had that huge gathering of youngins down in Florida with spring break, and of course in New York, which is one of the hot spots, you've got now the largest group that's being impacted are young people,
Younger.
the younger people. Okay, and I posted something this morning that said that a couple of weeks ago you were willing to write all those over 60 people off, all those over people over 60 off. Well, now let me just tell you that since you're the group that's getting sick, we people over 60 are going to take care of you. Unlike the fact that you wouldn't seem to be willing to take care of us, we're going to take care of you and nurse you and make you better, okay? Because that's the right thing to do. I think that's what really kind of bugged me about this, to see all these millennials, okay, seem to think that it was perfectly okay. I'm sorry, Andrew. I know I'm hitting your age group here, but they seem to be perfectly okay with the fact, well, let's just write off an entire section of the population because since it only impacts them, we're really not concerned about it. That bugged me. Okay.
Well, the
let me ask
yeah.
a statistical question real quick, and maybe one of you guys can answer this. So I look at this broad picture wise, and you look at the testing that's being done, and it really seems that the people with the most severe symptoms are the ones being tested at this point.
Correct.
So they're giving you the numbers of the amount of people with coronavirus, and then they're giving you a death rate number as well. But
based on the number, right?
You're not getting the full picture of everybody with coronavirus. So how in the world do they get an accurate depiction of the percentage of people that this virus actually kills?
Well, no, until they can test this. But the more people they get tested, the denominator gets bigger. So
Sure.
the death rate drops. Okay.
But as long as they continue to say, well, your symptoms aren't that bad, we're not testing you. How do you ever figure that out?
But they're not testing you because of a lack of tests. They're trying to right.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But they keep reporting this number that they say, this is the percentage of people dying from this, and I have to scratch my head and say, well, it is, and it isn't.
And it isn't.
We don't have the entire population.
Well, okay, but are you willing to take the risk? See, here's the thing. Since those other people aren't being tested, okay, and yeah, the death rate is lower, but are you willing to then take the risk to allow the virus to spread to a point of where a huge number of people get infected? So let's say if you infect 100 million people, and let's say the real death rate is 0.5%. I mean, you're still talking about 50,000 people losing their lives, and at the same time, you're overwhelming the healthcare system.
Right. Well, I put it this way: if you're asking me, no, that's not acceptable. Absolutely not. I
No.
just somehow, I look at the graphs people post and I say, man, we say this with such certainty, and there's not like a little thing at the end saying, well, we're not sure.
Right, like a little asterisk. Well, but I think they've made it fairly clear that you have this. We don't have the full picture because of the fact that we don't have everybody tested. The problem, I wonder. Would the death rates be higher here, or will the death rates be higher here if we don't have if the healthcare isn't adequate? I mean, I happen to think that our healthcare system is certainly far more adequate than it is in Italy. Okay.
Well,
absolutely.
They need to find a proper way of comparing countries as well.
Right.
Italy is like 18% of the United States. So
right.
It's not apples to apples.
No, but they have a very high death rate. They've had a high number of deaths. Also,
without a doubt. But I'm saying if the United States death rate surpasses Italy, it's still not apples to apples. We're a much larger country.
No, and they're a much older population. Also, in terms of cultural attitude, I would just say that that when the initial warnings that came out in Italy, and I have a lot of relatives. I am a first generation here. I have a lot of relatives that are in Italy, and when all of this came out, it was viewed with a great amount of skepticism. Okay. And it also comes out at a time when there's a lot of festivities going on during the month of January in Italy, and you could see it in other places in our own country. You're hard. You don't want to cancel the St. Patrick's Day parade. Mardi Gras, all the rest of it. So there were probably some things going on that went on that kind of helped to spread the virus a lot faster. But they also have, I don't want to get too political here, but they have a single payer system in there, and they make medicals, and I know this from my own aunt who's there right now, who can't get heart surgery because she's been deemed heart valve surgery because she's been deemed too old to get one. Okay, not that she physically can't have it; she can physically have it, but because she's past the age of 80, they will not give it to her. So they have fewer beds, fewer ICU units, and so on. And this is another reason why their death rates have been high, and their hospitals are completely overwhelmed. I've stunned everybody to silence with that, didn't I? just sheer silence.
Well, I just decided to be quiet because I figured it was somebody else's turn.
I think I'm done.
Well,
you know me, I'll talk all night long. So.
No, me too.
Well, Brian, to your point with the testing, I have a friend that's a supervisor at an ER in a hospital in Connecticut, and they're working on getting in-home COVID-19 testing. They would send it to you.
That would be great,
They send it to you.
One of the other big benefits is finding out if you did have it. Now that you might have immunity, could you be helpful in places now that you might be immune to it? That could be something.
Yeah, because there could be there's a couple people I know that got sick, kind of like you, Joe, in January. A couple people got sick with 103 fever in the beginning of January, and they never went to the doctor or anything. They just kind of wrote it out. They may have had it.
That's true.
I see.
Yeah, think about that.
Addison, you're moving around here.
Yes, I am starting dinner.
Oh yeah, you're in a different time zone.
Hang on, I'm adding somebody. I've got a sixth person in for the Brady Bunch.
Wow.
For the windows here. Hang on a second. I don't know if you guys can see it yet.
Not yet.
All right, hang on. Okay, so now it's complete, sort of.
Who else is here?
Can you see her?
No. I don't see anybody yet.
Yeah, there's the lag, so you'll see it in a minute. I won't spoil it. She'll come up.
I see 5 of 6 people.
Yeah, there'll be a 6th image up there shortly. So anyway, I just, I know everybody's just kind of being extra cautious right now, and that's definitely a good thing.
I see Alice.
Yes, I brought Alice in.
Alice.
From the Brady Bunch.
Oh.
And
the 3 younger guys here are like, what?
And BG.
I know.
Oh, I
know.
see.
Now that you mentioned Brady Bunch, now I actually do. It did ring a bell, but it took me a second.
You're too young for the Brady Bunch, Brian?
I know I'm not. Well, I am and I'm not. I have older siblings, so I'm not because it was always on in my house. But if I didn't have older siblings, I might be a little too young for it.
It's just like that song, Alice, who the heck is Alice?
Oh yeah.
First, just thinking the Brady Bunch was new when I was watching it.
What do you think of the setup? I added the big screen monitor now.
Oh, let me see.
Hold
on.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah, very good.
This goes on for. So I've been working on ways because we work with WSI as pretty much every weather station does in the country, and doing it on a laptop remotely was difficult to say the least when you're dragging little points around on cold fronts and stuff, and so. I did have an extra TV set, which, believe it or not, the HDMI ports were burned out, so I was able to use like the computer port line on it, and find some use for the monitor.
All right, way to be resourceful, Brian. I like it. Looks good.
I have a second monitor here that I just like extended from the first one. So I feel very accomplished now that I have 2 monitors, so I can slide Windows up to a second monitor. See, Andrew,
isn't that the best? I just started doing that myself.
Yeah, no, because it gives you.
I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, I know. But it gives you so many more options. By the way, Joe, Mrs. Rayo says she's watching from the kitchen, so she's practicing social distancing.
She's not going near you.
Stay away from me.
If you want to sleep, sweetie, if you want me to sleep downstairs here tonight, if you want to social distance.
Now, Joe, listen. As good a cook as your wife is, okay, I think that you have to really kind of calculate these sorts of things that you say because you don't want to get yourself cut off. She's a great cook. She's an incredible baker. She fixes snow blowers, for Christ's sake. I mean, really,
Speaking of, I'm gonna have to take the snowblower out, not tomorrow, but on Thursday. I'll have to take the snowblower on Thursday and just give it a revving up, and because I've only used it twice this whole winter season. That's incredible. That in most other years I've used the snowblowers 8, 10, 12 times or more, twice. And that was the storm in December and the storm in mid-January, and that's been it. I didn't use it in January. I didn't use it in February. I didn't use it in March. Wouldn't it be funny if I had April?
You guys have had like no snow at all lately. I've been hearing. Jeez.
No, this winter's been horrible. Hey, Brian, what did you get yesterday?
We picked up we would have picked up a ton of snow, but a lot of it was melted on contact. But we picked up probably about 3.5 inches on the grass.
Oh, not too shabby.
Yeah, but it was real pretty this morning because we got some sleet afterwards too, so it stuck to the trees. And so this morning when the sun came out, it was like it was raining from the forest, and it was I posted a photo or video of it actually on social media on my Facebook page, and it was just a really cool sound. The trees were glistening, and it sounded like there was like a rainforest coming down out in the woods.
Man, I missed that.
The snow. And I think when I did this before, it was just me and Andrew. I did like a commercial, and I don't think anybody saw
your book.
But tomorrow at 2:30, anytime after 2:30 tomorrow on my YouTube channel, Joe Rayo Weather, if you tune in, you will be able to see me read this. This is a book that I wrote about 5 years ago for Simon & Schuster. It's The Cool Story Behind Snow. It is basically for 3rd and 4th graders. And it's a book that will help kids understand why snow forms, how meteorologists forecast it, and other forms of frozen precipitation like ice and sleet and thunder snow and that sort of thing. But my wife was the videographer. My daughter is the behind-the-scenes producer. She put music underneath my voice. I did the introduction outside while it was snowing, and then I said, well, why don't we all go inside and let's read the book?
We live
And so that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, 2:30, anytime after 2:30. And the reason I do it for two reasons. Number one, I'm trying to get that subscription to my channel up above 1,000. We have about 650 subscribers so far. So if you're not already a subscriber, please do, or at least please spread the word. And number two, if you want the book, you can get it off of Amazon.com. You can either get it in the hardcover, the soft cover, or you can get it on Kindle. And just to show you one of the illustrations here, I don't know if you could see this, but there you go. There's me, reaching for snow.
And Joe Rayo's
Oh,
YouTube
man.
channel, by the way, everybody, is
That's
Joe
very
Rayo
good.
Weather.
Joe Rayo Weather on YouTube. So anytime after 2:30 tomorrow, this thing goes up. I wanted to do it live, but both my daughter and my wife said, no, you should pre-tape it or pre-record it. It'll sound a little bit better. Meanwhile, today, I don't know if you know this guy. He's Steve Hartman on CBS News. He does On the Road for CBS. He's been from his house doing these little webinars for kids at 2:00 each afternoon. And today he had a dickens of a time. He kept losing the signal and he kept coming back and then he lost it again. And it was really tough and it was kind of embarrassing. And maybe my wife and my daughter were right in not doing this thing live tomorrow. Just play it out at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. Anytime after 2:30 tomorrow. And I'll even put links on my Facebook page and my Twitter page so you can watch that as well. But again, the main thing is please subscribe to Joe Rayo Weather on YouTube. And if you like the book, if you like the way I read the book and you want it for yourself, here it is. You can get it on Amazon.com. Commercial over.
Brian, do you have anything to shamelessly
Shameless
self-promote?
Shameless self-plug.
I don't. Unfortunately, at this point, the book is still in the works. I'm kidding. No, nothing to promote.
Oh, listen,
You want to go over to my Facebook page? That's pretty cool. Meteorologist Brian Fitzgerald.
There you go. See, you have something to self-promote.
Absolute randomness. I'm nowhere near sharing as often as Mr. Cioffi, but sometimes you'll see pictures of my kids. Sometimes you'll see videos of snow, and sometimes you'll just see me posting funny things, and that's all I got.
Andrew, go ahead and shamelessly self-promote your game channel, which you're gonna do if you're not exhausted from doing this.
Oh no. So this is I know you posted it before, but youtube.com/Andrew Pinero. That's my main YouTube channel that I do weather forecasts on. I also do the game streaming. So the new game I've been playing is Doom Eternal. That's came out Friday, so I'll be playing that. I also do some car stuff. So I have a Subaru WRX, so I'm a sports car kind of guy with a turbocharged. So I'll be doing an oil change actually this week. And I've been teasing this video coming out with the end of winter and now we're in spring. When the weatherman changes his winter tires to his summer tires, does that mean the end of snow? So that's a question.
Who uses snow tires anymore anyway?
I do. The tires that came with
sports car.
Yeah. The tires that came with my car are summer only and have zero traction in the winter.
Oh, okay. So, by the way, Andrew, spell your last name for everybody.
Pineiro. I can actually type it into the chat.
Okay. Addison, of course, you have many things that you can shamelessly self-promote. So go ahead. You four-time Emmy-winning person, you.
Well, thank you, Joe, for that nice lead-in. Yes,
You'll never get that again, by the way.
No. I'll take it while I can. I am on weekdays, Wednesday through Friday on khou.com/weather. We do the noon show, the 4 o'clock show, and then the evening shows. So I do the noon 4. You can find it on that website right there, khou.com/weather. And I'm also the weekend meteorologist in the morning shift. So Saturdays and Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock and 7 o'clock respectively. And then my forecasts are also visible on CBS Sunday morning every Sunday.
Okay.
Well, supposedly.
Maybe not now.
Except the last 2 Sundays.
Yes.
With everything going on. The weather gets done. It gets done and gets aired somewhere.
All right, so you know what? I have a glass of wine and a cigar waiting for me because I want to numb my mind and asphyxiate any viruses that are in my body. So
Good, yeah.
that is my plan of attack. So thanks for being here tonight, guys. Had a great time.
Yes.
We will definitely do this again. Only
Joe, you gotta have the wine on stream. You gotta have it on stream.
oh no,
Yeah.
I'll bring a glass of wine down next time, and you know
I mean, I've
This
been
is live
having some
TV.
stuff.
we'll get.
Do it now.
Well, I got my bottle of water tonight. What do you got? What is that, Brian? What do you have?
This is an IPA, and it's called Voodoo Ranger. Pretty cool.
What is
Oh,
IPA?
very nice.
Well, now you're
Intellectual
gonna make me
property
look silly,
agreement.
Joe. I don't know, whatever it stands for.
Well, you know, I'm worried about the P. Okay, the P concerns me. That's why I'm asking.
Now you're Brian turning to beat red.
Wow.
I can see it from over here.
Is that
Yep.
what concerns you?
That's it. That's the only thing that concerns you.
Oh Lord.
See, I'm dangerous.
have-
I'm very dangerous to have
We
around.
missed all this. We missed all these Joffy Choffyisms.
Yeah,
I'm having one of my favorite drinks tonight.
which is what?
Hot chocolate and peppermint schnapps.
Oh,
Oh wow, well, excuse me.
We didn't know you
Fancy.
You're a schnapps guy, are you?
Yeah. Well, only from college because it was easiest to sneak in.
Oh, brother.
Did I say that?
Joe,
Ain't no one checking that.
Yeah.
What's that?
on the chat board, Izzy D is asking, are you going for an all-time record in terms of a telecast tonight?
Oh, I think we already passed it. I think the old record was an hour and 18 minutes. So
Okay,
we're at an hour and 38 minutes.
Lovely.
It's been fun.
Now you know what the thing. Listen. The most important thing that we can get out of this is, you know, if there's somebody out there with lots of money that wants to sponsor us, in which case, you know, just shoot me an email.
Done.
And did you say at one time for the Western Connecticut Weather Conference, which is held every other year, that they were considering Joe and I to be the moderators?
Yes, and the last time I heard, they want you to be the moderators either this coming year or the next year. Because it's biannual, so they want you either this cycle or the next cycle. The two of you.
Well, I'm open. You know,
Craig Allen for the 8th time.
If it's listen, if it's biannual, I'm open-minded. You know that that works for me. You know, I'm a modern type of person.
We're kind of like the Smothers Brothers of weather.
What's that?
Format.
We're kind of like the Smothers Brothers of weather.
Well, that could be. You know, I
How would
could
you share
listen.
podium?
If they do, if they let us know of the booking, I won't shave at all between now and then. You know, so I could come in and looking like somebody from Pennsylvania. Yeah, growing this low part down.
Hey, where did they get this guy from?
Somebody in chat says they work at WCSU.
Viewers.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, this Mark G. I work at WCSU.
Oh, Mark does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I graduated from that college in 2009.
Rob Eisen, I think, was one of your professors, right?
He was my professor. Yep, until he retired.
Well, look, if they're going to book us, get off the schneid because late September is fishing time for me. So you know, I want to, you know, I got to book a schedule here.
You can do some fishing behind the college. There's some streams back there.
Can we have the program back there?
Fly fishing. Yeah, we'll do that.
I have extra fly rods. Addison, what are you doing?
That's the second time he washed his hands.
He's washing his hands?
He's being appropriate.
Yes.
I thought maybe he was getting I thought maybe he was getting around to washing yesterday's dishes.
Every 20 minutes, you wash your hands for 20 seconds.
I build those up, man. I'll let the week go by.
Oh, that's good. Very good. So you get to the point where you have to scrape the food off with a chisel. You know.
Mm-hmm. Leave it piled up. When there's no more sink left, that's when you do the dishes.
Oh God.
See, you missed these fun times.
Yeah. Now, if we only had Jeffrey here, because then we could just pile on. Then we could just pile on him.
Yeah, young Jeffrey.
So, I think that's it, guys. This, not too shabby. 8:41. We usually start these live streams. Joe and I start them at 7:00. So you can find us on Skype. So anytime you want, guys, just message me ahead of time, and I will check with the booker to see if we can squeeze you in. And you'll be more than welcome to join the show. Okay, I'm the booker,
Sounds good,
or
guys.
Joe's the booker. We're both the bookers. So whenever you want, you always have an open line here. Okay.
I feel like
I'm a big fan of that.
Booker, I feel like he doesn't like me. There's an issue there.
Why? What, you? Of all people, you are the least of my issues. Okay. Okay. Addison is a whole other story.
Brian,
I'm kidding. All we just have to do, we're on the search for a new television station that we could just take over ourselves.
Works for me. As long as I can as long as I can do it from my own place, sitting in my own chair, I'm happy, because I ain't driving to anywhere to anybody.
Well, this new method might be right up your alley.
Joe was pointing out, he and I have been doing this for a few years now.
Right.
It's another thing. It's another thing that we've come up with that now everybody is stealing. We should have trademarked it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm seeing Al Roker so proud of himself that he's in his kitchen doing the weather on the Today Show in the morning.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to figure out a way to sabotage these other people.
Just like Addison right now.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, I'm starting to the sabotage Al Roker conversation, but
well, that's true. Okay, you need to right. You're you can't do that. All right, guys. Look, have a great night. Thanks for being here. Everybody on my YouTube channel, of course, thanks for being here on a regular basis, as you always are. Thanks to those of you who have hit Super Chat tonight. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back at 7:00 tomorrow night. Good night, everybody.
Good night. And if anybody's interested in video games, I'll be going into my game stream now, or after a short intermission.
Okie dokie. Bye.
Time to stream with Andy.
Bye.
Bye, guys.